Welcome back to Season 3 of School of Speech, presented by Speech Therapy PD. I'm your host, Carolyn Dolby. Well, it's only the beginning of the school year, but for many of us school-based SLPs, the tank already feels empty. In this episode of School of Speech, we are talking back to school burnout and what makes it unique in our field. From overflowing caseloads to endless IEPs, we will unpack the pressures and share practical ways to set boundaries and to keep yourself fueled for the months ahead. We're joined by the amazing Angelyn Franks, who brings her expertise and insight to help us navigate it all. So let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to Season 3 of School of Speech, presented by Speech Therapy PD. I'm your host, Carolyn Dolby, and I am so glad you've tuned in today. Today, we have the amazing Dr. Angelyn Franks with us, and this episode is Back to School Burnout. All right, Dr. Franks is a speech-language pathologist. She's a researcher and a burnout coach. She has experienced burnout firsthand. She has spent the first decade of her career exploring multiple roles and settings, searching for the right job. After realizing that no single role could solve burnout on its own, she discovered the key to a sustainable, fulfilling career. And what that was aligning her work with her core values. Dr. Frank's approach goes beyond just surface level self-care. It really, that challenging, toxic hustle culture that really equates worth with being overworked. No, her approach is rooted in research. Her methods focus on values, really aligning your values, helping with stress regulation and authentic self-care. So she's going to want authentic self-care. She's going to explain what that is so that you can continue doing your work that you love without burning out. Now, she's a mom, a wife, and a professional who has navigated these challenges firsthand. Dr. Frank understands that the juggle, it's real. Her journey from burnout to balance is proof that you can build a meaningful, fulfilling career without sacrificing your well-being along the way. All right, everyone, as everyone is settling in for another great episode. We do have some housekeeping. I do want to remind everyone that each episode of School of Speech is offered for 0.1 ASHA CEUs. Next, we absolutely love questions. We are going to want your comments as well. But you know what? I think what we'd like to know, because I know we've got people listening from all over the states and sometimes even abroad. Hey, have you already started school or are you just beginning to get ready? That kind of gives us an idea of where you guys are at right now. So as we are waiting for Angelyn is on her way. And there she is.
I'm here. I was here.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
No, I'm not even done with all the housekeeping. I was just saying, we got a little bit more to go, but we've got people coming in to see if they're ready, already started, or if they're getting ready, but I do have to just do a little bit more. So our financial disclosures, Angelyn is a full-time salaried employee for Essentra Health. She is the owner of Angelyn Franks, SLP, LLC, and we are going to give a shout out to that later so they know how to get in touch with you. And she is also receiving an honorarium for her guest appearance today. Non-financial, she is a member of ASHA, and she is the vice president of SLPs for Arkansas Speech, Language, and Hearing Association. That's pretty impressive. For me, I am a salaried employee for Portland Public Schools, and I also receive compensation for hosting School of Speech by Speech Therapy PD. Non-financial, I am also a member of ASHA, and I also consult for school districts across the nation supporting their dysphagia programs, development and staff training. All right, enough about me. Let's get in it with Dr. Angelyn Franks. I just want to say that I first met Angelyn at the Speech Therapy PD Wellness Conference. You blew me away, and I was like, I have got to get you on my podcast. So I was like, over the moon when you agreed to come, because y'all, you are in for a treat. I know that I have been working in the school setting. I mean, and it's amazing. I love working in the schools. It's been over 25 years. But you know what? It's work. And work brings challenges, which, you know what? Even all of, work is work, work is hard. Even those that are in education, people think that, oh, you're in education, it's just fun and games. No, it's real. We are not immune to the pressures. So
Oh,
hi, Angelyn. And,
hi.
we're getting ready for the beginning of the school. We've got, yeah, oh, someone doesn't start until after Labor Day. Oh, yay.
I know. And
We've
somebody already started on
already
August
started.
1st. Like, it's just
Whoa.
wild how
Yeah, that
varied
is
it is.
crazy. Yeah, already 2 weeks in. First day's tomorrow. Ooh, tomorrow. Okay, you got, well, for being tomorrow, thank you so much for listening in tonight. Oh, you were a superstar, rock star.
What
All
a
right,
way to spend school night eve, though, right?
I
First
love
day
it.
eve.
You, right? Yeah, first day eve, and you are among friends and colleagues, and we are here just to join together and have some fellowship. Let's start, Angela. I want to know a little bit more about you and your journey. Tell us about
Yeah.
your journey. Not that I want to harp on your burnout, but
No,
just
but I
tell us
mean,
where you
yeah,
came
that
from.
way you
Yeah.
know where I've been.
Yeah.
When I said, or you said in my bio that I had been kind of all over looking for the right job, I truly mean it. I had 6 jobs in 7 years was like my,
What?
which I really was surprised when I looked back on that. But I've been in a skilled nursing facility, is where I started. And then I went to a public school for
Mhm.
5 or 6 years. I've done preschool. I've done outpatient clinic. I've done contract work and salary. So I've done it all. And I can tell you that really the burnout and the stress, it can happen everywhere. It doesn't like stick to one setting or another. And I know as school SLPs, you probably hear so often like, "Oh, well, you get the summer off. That must be so amazing." Like
That makes me so angry.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did me too. And plus, when you're in a school too, I mean, I was always trying to like, make that summer salary, like make that kind of make ends meet in the summer, right? So by doing summer school or tutoring or babysitting, like
Right.
you're always doing something. So yeah, I've done all of the roles. And what I realized at the end of my end of my job hopping, it was during my doctorate program, and I just realized that the pattern was that I was always looking for like was next, why I was burnt out. And it was always, I now know that burnout is chronic stress over time that just doesn't really that you don't mitigate or you don't really have great strategies or tools for. And one of the ways that you can have stressors is that values misalignment, which we'll talk so much about. But I was changing my environment when really there were some mindset shifts that I had to change. There were some things that I didn't realize that I was doing. And there was so much for me early in my career and into it, like perfectionism and imposter syndrome and worrying about what other people maybe thought or stressing about things that were outside of my control in IEP meetings and
Hmm.
with families and just really not having like a grounded view and having not really giving any time to authentic self-care at all for me was just really difficult. And so I'm so excited. I love sharing about this. I love talking about just the things that changed for me and that really one thing that I think is so key is that knowing that burnout or knowing that stress is going to happen, right? There's going to be things that the school year is going to be stressful. You're going to have that really intense family that you are trying so hard to kind of make up for, the things that happened in the past, or, you want them to be comfortable and you want to help their child. And there's just so many things. Might be a year that your principal is really challenging, or the team that you're working on is not super supportive, or everybody's like over pouring out of their cups and you're like, wait a second, like culturally as a school this is not the best plan. So we everything all of that is outside of our control, but there are some things that you can keep in your control to change just how you are processing and how you are dealing with that stress. And that to me has been the biggest shift, because then even when things are really terrible or things feel really heavy or things feel really hard, I have the tools and the resources, and I'm resourced enough myself to know what to do and manage my stress. And it doesn't change the fact, it doesn't change any of the things going on around me, and it might, but what it does is give me that just grounded ability to manage the stress. So I'm excited to share anything about
Yeah.
that with you.
At the end of every year, as I'm closing out my, I have an academic school year calendar. Some people start at January. I do the academic. That's just how I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the year, when I get my new calendar for the next year, the first thing that I write at the beginning, I say, remember, you hate the beginning of every school year and you're not okay until October. This is normal. Like it's almost like so I won't forget, like they say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you forget childbirth, like you have another. I didn't.
Yep.
I only had one. No, that's not why I didn't. That's not why I only had one. My gorgeous daughter truly was a blessing from God. But um, I always have to remind myself because for me, the beginning of the school year, I have to hit the ground running. Well, not just me. We all have to hit the ground running with not a lot of prep time on our contract. So that's one little thing. I know it's kind of silly, but it's one thing that I've done for years. And I giggle every time I look at it, go, yes, that is right. I will not be okay until October.
Right. No, it's so true.
But I'm hoping I'm going to come away today with maybe I can be better by September instead of all October.
I think so. And I think knowing that it is a hard time and it does feel challenging,
Yeah.
I think that is one of the keys, right? And I think I feel that way about scheduling. I know scheduling in a school is the absolute
Oh,
worst.
yes.
Um, and I think, people are going to start asking you probably yesterday about your schedule. Like, are you done with it? Is it done?
Hmm.
And I think one of the biggest things that you can do is just say, no. And that is not because you're not trying, but
Hmm.
because, you are trying to get the best schedule for everybody, and it just
Right.
might not be done so quickly.
And depending on what school or what, if you're in primary or secondary, like if you're in elementary or like the master schedule. So generally, like in elementary, like I think you jump in. If you're elementary and you're listening live, and I start lying, you jump in and you straighten me out. You at least when their specials are, their large group. That usually isn't going to change. Their classes could still change. But when you're in secondary, there's so many other also moving parts
Yes.
with the master schedule itself. And so when they're saying, yeah, we put okay, SLPs, you're with me here. We put our schedules together and we're like, we're good to go day one, but guess what happens? We get a change in the schedule, right? Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love this. So funny how teachers think you just move one student, but you have to move all the other students. That's right, Kathy. So true. It's so frustrating that, when a schedule changes, it changes for us. And I mean, we're a puzzle and everything, and
Yeah.
struggle
I
is
think
good.
truly for me, one of the things that I think what is so important is, I mean, the teachers might think that you move one student and then you don't have to move anybody else, but they might just be asking because they're curious. And it may be I think just, I know when you're in that stress too, right? It's so easy to, you're this close to that reactive thing of oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this person doesn't understand. But they might just be asking. You can try to make the most, what do they say, the most benign assumption, right? And then even if, well, Kathy said, no, you're too sweet. Well, but the thing is, if you can just keep to the place of well, you're absolutely right. I will get back to you, instead of getting, I don't know, I guess getting to the point where you're saying, oh, well, here, yeah, let me give you something just to make them feel better. It's kind of I don't know, I feel like I have that conversation too at home or with my daughter, all the time, it's just, you might want to tell someone what they want to hear so that everybody just is quiet and leaves you alone. But if you can tolerate their discomfort a little bit and say, I am really working on it. I will get it to you. It is my goal to get it to you as soon as possible. Because that is true,
I like
right?
that. So, okay, I'm sorry I'm stopping you, but I've been
No,
writing stuff
go.
because you say these things that I love. Tolerate their discomfort. Like, I think as speech paths, we sometimes we want to fill that space.
Hmm.
And it's all right. And when you said, absolutely, I'm working on it, and my goal is to get it to you as soon as possible. Full stop. That was beautiful. That's a beautiful response because
Yeah.
I know one of my things is I hate hearing no. This is part of my personality. Like when I started out as a teacher before becoming a speech path, and has carried on with me. And when you just hear no full stop, it's frustrating because you're like, no, we're in this together. I'm not asking this for me. I'm
Right.
asking this for the children. So
Hmm.
when you say no, you're saying no to the kids. I hope you understand that. You're not saying no to me. So I always try to find a yes to every request. That's my own personal thing I have to work with. But when you said it is okay to say no, I need to know, I need to hear that it is okay to say no. But be positive with my goal is to get that to you as soon as possible.
Because that's true, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
that's the true
absolutely
statement.
true. And then, and if somebody said that to me, I would be like, okay, well, I might want it right now,
Yeah,
but they don't
right.
have it right now. And the best they're going to do is get it to me as soon as they can. And I think, that's something that may be frustrating to them, but also there are things that they're doing that we don't understand. There are parts of their job that we don't quite understand. And I think they don't understand the scheduling piece, that juggling, that I always called it Tetris. Like, and
Yes.
I think now I think it might be easier because in my brain, I'm like, there's got to be a way to not use people's names, but like have AI help, kind of, right? There's got to be a way to simplify it some, but you still have to use what you know about the schedule and the things. And so it wouldn't be fully able to be
I mean, it
AI
would.
supported, but there might be a way.
And I think, even the thing about the schedule, that is a big thing because the teachers are wanting to know, and I get it, but the teachers have what, 25 kids in their class, and we can have, I mean, yeah, we only have 30, right, on our caseload, ladies and gentlemen. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Don't jump at me. I know
They're like,
we don't.
wait,
No,
wait,
I'm
we're
kidding.
coming to
I
work in
no,
your
we don't. No,
district.
we don't. We last year, my good friend Julie Barber Bristol in Texas was with 106 with two. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's insane, insane. Oh, Marla, thanks for reminding us. We are talking about schedules right now. She's saying, don't forget to schedule your lunch break. Honestly, you have that. That is your right. Don't give those up. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I always booked myself early on, maybe a couple of extra little spots of white space on my calendar that I would have for testing or something, knowing that all of them were not going to stay, but making sure that then if a couple of them go away because you have to give them up, that you have some. You have what you're
mhm.
owed. And I think that's also a good trick because if you have it is really easy to be like, okay, well, I also need to get these kids in and then I need to put them here. And you might not be able to move something. So that kind of keeps that white space in there. And if someone asks about it, you say exactly that. That's why you did it. And your intention is not to keep them all, but it's just to make sure that at the end of making your schedule, you have what you're contractually obligated to have or contractually allowed to have. Because,
Right. I
that's
love it
fair.
when you need to, what I liked what you said is you need to have what you are owed. We
Hmm.
are owed a break. We are owed to be able to eat. We can't, I understand that we have meetings and things come up, but that can't be every day. That should be once in a while. And actually, our schedule, when I was doing the schedule, when I was a campus SLP, now I work at the district going all over. It's crazy too. But that when you block that out for testing, even though that could end up being something else, that's legitimate. You
Oh,
can't, yeah, definitely do not,
100%.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yikes. Ugh. I think schedule itself can lead to burnout.
Yeah. You know what though? Can we flip it? Can I give you a
Yeah, do
flip? A
please, please.
reframe? I love a good reframe. One of the things that one of the pieces that can cause burnout is control, like in not having a lot of control in your job. And so in those moments that you're like stressed with the schedule that you have to make, think about if you worked in a place, and there may be people in the chat, I don't know if this happens, but like maybe you're working in a place where you could be, where they just give you your schedule and you have no control of it and you're already overscheduled. So reminding yourself that the act of scheduling means that you have control over your schedule and then it's your job to set the boundaries, which is the scary part for the people pleasers in the audience and the perfectionists in the audience and the ones who are so easy, who feel like it's easier to give up those times that you give to yourself. And so, but if you can remember that like control, like you having control over your schedule is actually something that is going to, it's like negative burnout points. Like it's taking you away from burnout. So you could have someone scheduling for you and that would be worse because
Yeah,
they
no,
are not thinking of you.
Kathy just came in the chat and said that one year her principal scheduled and put her lunch at 9:30 a.m.
Right. And every day that whole school year, you were probably like this, like every day you probably had chronic stress and cortisol coming up at 9:25 when you had to prepare for your brunch because that's what that is. That's actually still breakfast. Like that's not even lunch or
But when
brunch.
I was a teacher, the first lunch was at 10,
Mm-hmm.
like the kinder
Yeah.
lunch. We had lunch and then recess since I was a kinder teacher. So like, yeah. But we also anyway, yeah.
I mean, there's things that everybody, has. I would never be able to be like responsible for a whole entire classroom of children. Like I preferred my small groups and my like one in small groups. So I'm sure
Yeah.
teachers look at us sometimes and say, "Oh, they only have 4 kids with them." But
Yeah, but then you could reframe. Marla, I'm with you. I
yeah,
love that. Like, let's reframe that. It must be nice to only have 4 kids. Yeah, but I have, 72 altogether. And how many do you have? No, I would never be ugly. I think I'm just being, tongue in cheek and smarty pants
it's
right now.
okay. And I
Um,
think, yeah, and that's the thing. You have a lot more than a teacher. So if anyone
yeah.
were to say, you know, and I think a lot of times we think that maybe people are thinking something. And when you're in burnout, one of the symptoms, like the actual, like by the book symptoms of burnout, is cynicism, which is just like
Oh,
feeling angry and grumpy about all of the things or all of the people. And so it's so easy to lean towards cynicism. And what that also looks like, as like for me, it looks like a really small window of tolerance, like a really small, like the days where my patience was really low. And so maybe those kids who had more sensory needs or had more things, like I wasn't as resourced as I could have been to support them. And so, you know, it might be like a teacher is just like asking a question, but you might put all of this meaning behind it. But now if they're saying, but you only have 4 at a time, if they're saying it out loud, then you can say whatever you want back. But if you think that they're thinking it, it might be your stress telling you that you think that that's what they're thinking. Because they might also be thinking, oh, I don't know. I don't know. They could be thinking something positive, even if we don't know.
I know. I always like always I really do come from a place of joy. Like I really do. I'm like a happy person. I do, but I think that what happens is exactly what you're saying is we have these well, maybe we should talk about what are some other symptoms because I think when I'm stressed, I'm not as I am a delight. I am
You
Carolyn
are a delight.
Dolby and I am a delight. But sometimes,
Put that on
when
a
I'm
shirt.
stressed, I'm a little less delightful, and that makes me sad because I am a delight. And my mother is unanimous in that.
No, I totally agree. And like in those moments, especially, I think that's why it's really hard too in the beginning of the year. because when we're in that stress place, it's also really hard to make decisions because your frontal
Yes.
lobe kind of shuts down. And so it's the worst time to be scheduling. They really should let you schedule right before you leave for summer vacation for the next year. Like that would make way more sense, but nobody would know where the
Right.
kids
Why,
are.
if they would have their schedule for us to, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so
I
much is
mean,
out of our control.
so much. So the other symptoms, though, you were
Mm-hmm.
asking,
Yeah.
we have these little, okay, you want to talk about stress? We have these little ants. Like, I have had so many
What?
little, I keep finding little ants on my desk. It's awful. Ugh. Anyways, the exterminator just came to fix them, but I don't know where they're coming from. Anywho, emotional exhaustion is one of the symptoms. So there's like three. So emotional exhaustion, which is just like the feeling of being exhausted by stress, but it also is that feeling of like waking up in the morning and like already being tired before your day starts. So maybe like the first day of school, the second day of school, you like don't wake up like that, but then by Wednesday, you're like, I don't have the I don't want to do this. Or getting in bed at night, and this happens to me often. It's like you've been on for everybody else all day. You've been like doing, and then you lay down in bed at night and you're like wired but tired. Like you want to go to sleep, but you're just like brain is on. And if
Mm-hmm.
you then pick up your phone, it's even worse because then you have the light that's shining to keep you awake. So then you start doom scrolling, and then so that's
Doom
that like,
scrolling, yes.
yes, that emotional exhaustion is one. And then depersonalization or that cynicism. So just like you just might not have the patience for the group of six second grade boys that are like love to ask you what game you're playing that day. Like maybe on a normal day when you're well resourced, you're it's fine. But in at the height of your burnout, it's or the height of your stress, it's you're just like, no games today, or you know what I mean? Like whatever it is. And then a reduced sense of personal accomplishment, which is like the little things don't feel as exciting anymore. Oh, Kathy said that's a great suggestion, Kathy. Start keeping a journal on your nightstand to write down your racing thoughts. There's actual like research if you get it out of your brain and onto a piece of paper that it like you stop producing stress hormones as much. So that's an evidence-based strategy,
Oh,
Kathy.
all right. So thank you, Kathy. So those of you didn't pick up on that is an evidence-based strategy is to when you're having those racing thoughts at night, have a journal and write them, give them
Mhm.
to the journal, take them off your,
Yep, out of
yeah.
your brain. You can also do it before a stressful meeting. I think the research specifically that I'm talking about looked at like right before a really stressful test. So I always do give this strategy to my grad students, like before they take the praxis, like before they go inside, just like just write all your worries down.
Hmm.
Yeah, Kathy, that was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other way, so the reduced sense of personal accomplishment that comes with burnout too is one thing you can do, and I don't love the idea of like, for me, a gratitude journal, I always forget about it, but it's a great strategy, but like I don't love it. And so sometimes I'll like keep a little section of my planner that looks for like just small glimmers. I like to call them glimmers. It's like it feels fun. Or just like evident, like in my brain, I'm like, I like to look for like evidence of like the good, right? So like whatever it is, that's helpful for me too. So something like that can help you to see and like train your brain to be looking for those good things or the glimmers or the things to be grateful for, whatever you want to call it, whatever feels good to you. Because when you're in chronic stress, you like lose your focus for those things. And that's why that's part of the burnout. So if you can do something like a glimmers list or something like that, it can be really helpful.
I like it. I like it. For those of us that, the thought of, okay, if I had to do a gratitude journal, I feel like for me that might
Feels like
be
an obligation.
an obligation. And then if I didn't do it, then I'm going to be down on myself again. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't even do that. I can't do one
Mm-hmm.
simple thing. But I like that. Look for the glimmer. Look for just a
Mm-hmm.
little. I like that because, right, even just a little bright, just a flash of light, oh, lights up a
Ah,
dark room. Doesn't
yes,
take much light to
exactly. Oh,
light
I
up a
love that.
room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. I love that. So, okay, so we have the three symptoms and emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, which is cynicism, but I like the word depersonalization. I like to have a better, like fun words you can use with people.
Yeah,
And then that reduced sense of personal, did you say personal success?
accomplishment.
Accomplishment. Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
like,
too that like because one of the only not okay, that was gonna sound I was gonna say one of the only good things about our job, but the thing that we probably all started doing this job for is like the kids and the students or
mhm,
the our patients, clients, whoever you're working with, and just like helping them, right? And
yeah,
so if you are so stressed or so stuck in that cycle of stress that you start to lose sight of the wins for your students, or like you even start to feel like, oh, I can't even help them because I'm so stressed. Like, you start to feel that feeling like there's just so much going on, or the schedule's been so intermittent because I've had these IEP meetings and I've had to go to this other meeting, and you start to have that feeling. Well, that's the reason why probably most of us started this job. And so as that starts to go, it also keeps you in that cycle. And so stress is tricky in that it keeps us there spiraling in it.
right. That paralysis when
Hmm.
you can't get
Yeah.
out, you're just stuck in it.
And then if
Yeah.
you think about it, what you said is so true. So then you try to put a strategy into place. Like you try
Mhm.
to say, okay, I'm going to do my gratitude journal every day. And then you get stressed because you can't do your gratitude journal. So like you are
Right.
literally just like snowballing the stress. And that is so common. And like, that is so, like, I hear that a lot and I even do that a lot. And it's part of that happening is because of what stress is doing to our brain. And like you know I just always think when I'm resourced, this would be fine. When I have all of my like wits about me, when I'm in a good place, when I'm not super stressed, if I missed a day of a gratitude journal that I put into place as something good,
Big
I would
deal.
be like, eh, it's okay because I'm
Because
already looking for
yeah,
those
I'm
things.
already a superstar.
I'm already looking, my life is a glimmer. I don't need to
Yes,
have a
I
journal
am the
about it.
glimmer. Kind of,
But yeah.
yeah. So then, okay, so here we all are. We're
Mhm.
already burnt out and at the beginning of the school year, and we're looking at, okay, let's reframe it. So where do
Yes.
we start? How do we start reframing? What do we do from here? How do we
Okay. Yeah. The first thing right. So the first thing I think is just knowing what we've already said, that burnout is just like burnout is just a ton of stress. So you are feeling it. It's very real. It's not like it's not imagined. It's very real. But if just kind of like thinking about if you had I I'm not like a weightlifter, but if you had one of those weights with like all the weights on the side, if you can just start like little by little, like you could put the whole thing down, but you don't really have that ability because you got to go to work, you need a paycheck. But if you can start like slowly just chipping away at the weight on either side, then you can reduce the amount of stress that you have. So the first thing is just kind of reframing just like what you're working with. Like it's just stress, but it's stress. And then knowing that there is so much research on like stress reappraisal or reframing our stressors. And if your brain thinks a stressor, and this was not on my list of things to talk about, but here we go. But if
Yeah.
your brain thinks a stressor is a threat, right? If you feel like you don't have the resources to deal with it, then you're going to go into that place of like fight, flight, freeze, fawn, which is that people pleasing that we're all doing because you just want the teacher to be like not mad at you. So you're like, yeah, I'll get you the schedule in 10 seconds. And then you don't have it. So you'd use kind of some type of canned phrase that you have like, oh, it's my goal to get it to you as soon as possible. You have this, if if your brain thinks it's a threat, you're going to go into fight, flight, or freeze. If you think that you have some resources or you have some resources to deal with the stress, your brain's going to think that it's a challenge as opposed to a threat. And like
Mm.
it can deal with the challenge. And so they've seen in the research where they show people like 2 sets of trainings, like where they say like stress is bad, stress is terrible, stress is going to give you a heart attack. Like, they tell you all the bad things about stress. And that's what we see like on the newspaper, on the
Yeah.
newspaper, like the front of Time magazine or whatever it is, the headlines of Google. And then they show other people when they say like you to say stress is bad, and then to other people they say stress as a challenge can actually be good. It can, when you have a little bit of stress enough, you have the chemicals in your brain kind of give you enough energy to get through these things. And if your brain thinks it's a challenge, no, if it thinks, yeah, if it thinks it's a challenge as opposed to a threat, then you produce less stress hormones. Like they looked at the stress hormones people produced. And what I always think about is if you're in that cycle of burnout and your window of tolerance is really small and you're really cynical, like we talked about, and you're really like everything is terrible. And that's where I go. I'm like, everything's terrible.
Mm.
Things are the worst. And plus, like the state of public education is really difficult right now. The state of the world can be really hard to see. And so there's so many things, right? So it's so easy to go to that place of everything is terrible. But if you know that staying resourced can do this for you, then having things like canned phrases, or I love something at the bottom of my email signature that says like when people can expect a response back, like and try to get back to you within 24 hours, or something like I don't, if you send me an email after school hours, I will get back to you on the next school day as soon as possible. Something so people know what to expect, and just little things to make it so that when you get an email, even if you're reading your emails, and this is another thing I tell people, even if you are reading your emails and want to respond, because I have ADHD. I need to respond when it's on the top of my brain or I'm going to forget. But scheduling an email is my very favorite thing. So if you're like, see this email after work hours, it's not urgent, and you want to respond, I schedule it for 7:45 the next morning, or 8 o'clock the next morning, so people get it during their business hours. It's not really for them, but it's so that I don't set the expectation of I'm going to respond to you whenever I read it, because I need to, but I don't want to like let people know that that's what they should expect from me.
That is fantastic. Talk about, let's talk about putting up some boundaries.
Yeah.
And that was a great one. I am a pleaser, and I pride myself that I, will answer immediately. But you're right. The problem with that is that if people expect you to answer immediately, how many of us have kids out there? And if we don't answer in 30 minutes or 30 seconds, oh my gosh, mom, you hate me, like,
Yeah.
mom, right? And
Right.
so I love that. So schedule your email. So, because for me, yeah, I don't want to forget it. So I want to answer it, but then schedule it to be delivered during the next business day. I
Yeah.
love it.
And I can even say like I did this morning. I responded to an email late last night because I didn't want to forget. And like I scheduled it for 7:30 because like I wanted it to be the first thing at the top of the
Hmm.
person's list. I
Yeah.
wanted to like be the first thing on their mind. But I just felt like 7:30 was like our workday starts at technically 8. So I thought that was a good way to just kind of sneak in there, but not like overly extending, you know, outside of work hours. Like, and I
Yeah.
think knowing that you're doing it, because the other thing that happens too, I feel like for me, when I was just responding, because I wanted to respond, right? I wanted to
Hmm.
write a thoughtful response. I wanted to get back to the person. I knew if my workday started and like the craziness and the hustle and the bustle of the workday started, I might not have the brain space to respond to that email, or it could totally go out of my like frame of importance. Um, and so So the other thing I would think is like, I have to respond to this now. Hold on, Marla says, when you schedule emails to be sent, you get it off your to-do list and that feels good. Yes. Yeah. And you show them like, and again, I don't want to say like you're just setting the expectation of like, you're responding. It's off of your mental load, but it's, you know,
It serves two purposes. Marla
mhm.
said it right when she said that if you schedule your emails to be sent, it gets it off your to-do list. So you're helping yourself. Like we have to help ourselves first. It's that airline when they say
Yep, you put your own
put your
oxygen mask
oxygen
on.
on mask
Yes.
on first. So you're helping yourself
Hmm.
by scheduling it. You're writing it out when it's fresh in top of head, top of mind. But then you're also helping the other person realize that you aren't going to respond at 11 p.m., even though you really did. Because
Yeah.
for them, they got it first thing in the morning. So they're like, oh,
Yeah.
they're an early bird. They're an early girl.
Well, right. They're right, an early girly. Yeah. And you're not, because the thing is, in that moment, that's one thing. But then if you think about it too, the next time or the next time or three times from now, you aren't getting this email at 6 p.m. that says like, I need an answer before tomorrow morning, or like there's this urgent expectation. And I think too, this can happen with parents, like, and they might not even expect that response right away. But I know as a parent, like, I don't always have time to respond or to send an email to my child's teacher or about something. Like, usually it comes up when we're sitting down to dinner. And so I always, too, in my emails say, like, I don't expect you to respond to this tonight, but like, that's just like a personal thing. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to respond to me. Like, I don't want to be anybody's urgency because I really don't want anyone to apply their urgency to me.
Hmm.
Um, but that really isn't, somebody might apply their urgency to me and it's just not my emergency. I say that all the time too. Like, that's a good reframe of like, when people are stressed around you, like, it's not my emergency. Like, and it's not. Oftentimes it's not. Like, that person might be upset, that person might be triggered, that person might want something in an urgent fashion, but I can appreciate that. It's not my emergency.
I don't know what I read. I mean, something today, I read something that about emergencies. Like, I'm sorry, distorting an R
Hmm.
is not a safety risk.
Mm-mm. It's
Right?
not right.
So like
Yeah.
answering because they have a right at their
Yeah.
liquid gliding.
Right. And I mean, I guess too, we don't want to like, there might be a time though where we are like, hold on, but like, are putting that kid with the R, I want them on my, like, it is a priority to get them on my schedule and all
Oh,
these things.
yes.
So like, yeah. So like, we don't want to, I mean, just nothing about, or so many things that we treat as emergencies in our world because we're like in this world of like constant interaction and constant connection, or I wouldn't even call it connection. I would say like constant, like semi connection, right? Like, and just like instant gratification. So many things seem like an emergency, but then when you think about it, it really isn't. Like, even your schedule is important, but it's not an emergency. Like,
Yeah.
it's probably more important to build rapport with these kids that you have for the whole school year, or go through their goals with them because they have no idea why they're there. Like, they just think that they're there for fun. Like,
Right. When so I kind of want to get us into maybe talking about I love when you talk about core values and we haven't
mhm. Yeah,
kind of I think we're getting into that. So I
get
thought
there.
maybe let's get into
I can build a bridge,
let's build a
right?
bridge to that.
Okay, perfect. So what we know about burnout too is that there are like there are six causes. I'm going to tell you them really quick just so that you know them. Your workload can cause burnout, like having a mismatch of like what you expect for your workload and what your work expects. Control, I mentioned that one, like how much control you have, how much influence you have over the decisions you make at work. Reward, so like pay, compensation, just your boss saying thank you, or like, I don't know, giving you like I recently for my job got like a few snacks in the mail and I thought, thanks. Like, I don't, like, it was this time, like, it was basically like airline, like what they would give you if you sit in first class, like a couple of like, but it wasn't even first class. I don't know. And I just thought, you could have sent me a $5 gift card. It would have felt better. I don't know. Like, it just felt strange. I was like, that doesn't make me feel, you could have sent nothing and it might have felt better. I'm not really sure. I don't want to, look a gift horse in the mouth. But anyways, so rewards, even, school SLPs, if you are or aren't acknowledged during Teacher Appreciation Week, like sometimes that can feel not great if you're not acknowledged and then nobody's acknowledging you. Fairness, so like if you have a caseload of 179, but then someone has a caseload of 8, like
Right.
doesn't feel fair. I know a lot of times for me, like I had kids who had like higher needs, or I had a lot of non-speaking students who had AAC devices, and like, while maybe the numbers were equal, it never really felt fair to me, because if you have 2 Vocaligar kids and I have 2 kids who are new to AAC devices and I'm training all this, like that feels very different, feels unfair. And then values. And so values, I had no idea, like I had no idea what my core values were. And even when I started thinking about core values, I like had all of these values in my brain that were, I mean, really, when it came down to it, like my value was just like not upsetting other people. Like it was being a people pleaser. It was just like getting everything done, like helping the kids. Like these are things that I like was, I really was like, I just love helping people. Like that must be a value, right? Like, and so I think a lot of people, a lot of SLPs that I talked to are like, yeah, maybe I know my values. And like things that I hear often are like, I value excellence. Like I value doing the right thing or doing a good job. And when other people aren't being excellent, I get really upset. Like, and so I always am like, I always ask people before I do this, but I'm like, okay, if we really think about that, and now that I talk to so many people about values, there's so many things underneath that there's a value there. But I think that we were just told that the value there is excellence. And like that's what kind of keeps the peace. I'll give you the spoiler alert that person's value is actually integrity, like doing what you're saying, what you do, and doing what you say is like actually the value there. It's not excellence, like, because even if you are saying, I'm going to take a Saturday afternoon and go for a walk with my family, and then I end up doing notes and not, working on a Saturday and working on a Saturday, that's still a misalignment for that person who really values integrity and like saying what they do and doing what they say. And so for me, I looked back at these 7 jobs and I had no idea until I looked at this with this framework that like all of them, there was some type of values misalignment. And so I was like, okay. And then I was like, but what are my core values? Like, I have no idea what my core values are. I have no idea. Literally, I thought it was like some nice words for people pleasing was kind of what I was walking around the world with as like what I valued. And I always say, I think this came from grad school too. I think that feeling of like, we need to know everything. We need to just like do all the things that are expected of us in our placements and for these, to get through grad school. I think for a lot of us, we had some values show up that maybe aren't ours, and like that alone can cause misalignment. Like if you're kind of walking around looking through the lens of other people's values, or just the values that like kind of help people, or the values that you were given to kind of like keep, to like mask your way through like the world or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Like that, when you're being told a value that your expectation that somebody else is putting onto you,
Yeah.
could be
Like the expectation of, I'm going to respond to these, like, I'm just going to respond to these emails because like I need to do it. Like I need to be the person who responds to the email. Like I don't want someone to say that I'm the person that doesn't respond to emails.
Mhm.
Or so, there's so many things like that. And so for me, just getting really, really clear on my values was really helpful, because then what the next step after that is, and we can kind of talk about how you do that in a second.
Mhm.
But then the next step after that is like, you can use those values to set boundaries. You can use those values to decide what is authentic self-care. Because if you value connection, and this is, I'm going to give you a really good example of this. So recently, I just needed a pedicure. Like, I needed a pedicure,
Mm.
and we have had a really busy summer. I needed a pedicure, and I kept putting it off. My husband was like, just go get a pedicure. And I was like, I don't have time. Like, I don't have time. But one of my core values is connection. And as soon as I said, and I was like doing the thing where I was like, I want to go have a pedicure by myself, like all alone, like quiet me time. And the second I like asked my daughter, like, hey, do you want to go get a pedicure? And like we were able to go and just like catch up, then it became like a values aligned act of self-care, right? Because it wasn't just the pedicure, and the pedicure is great, but it was like in a moment, like an like intentional connection. And that is what I need when I'm planning my self-care.
To
So
fill your
there,
bucket.
yes, and there might be times where I need that me time, or if I'm like, I'm gonna go get a massage, or I'm gonna do, like, there are times, but what I needed in that moment was connection, and that was a way to do it, and that was a way to fill that bucket. Yeah. So I
So
think, yeah.
how do we find our true authentic? If we want to do authentic self-care, we need to know what our core values are.
Hmm.
How do we boil down all that word, that rhetoric we hear and like you should be this and you should be that? Um,
Yeah.
how do we
Usually, yeah.
yeah.
There's, okay, so I think of it as like kind of like peeling back layers of an onion, right? And so most likely the first list you come up with is probably not going to be like your core values, but it's a perfect place to start. But there are also some prompts that can be really helpful. And if you think about the last time that you were super, super angry or super triggered or super frustrated, and this can be at work, this can be at home, this can be like, I think usually the people we love the most kind of trigger us the most. So like those instances that you feel really frustrated, what I usually tell people is that you can find your value if like you can find a core value if you can look at it objectively and then like figure out the opposite feeling, or the thing that was missing, or the thing that you needed. Whatever the thing that made you really angry was, the opposite of that might be a core value. So I'm trying to think of a good example to share, because that, let's see. Now I'm trying to think of one. It's not going to come to me. But do
Well,
you want to tell me something that makes
yeah,
you
I
really
was about
mad
to
and I
say
can
for
help you?
me, one thing that really I get really angry at is when people make me wait, when people are late. And
Hmm.
and it just like it really angers me. And I did that. I was like, okay, oh, somebody has a young child or or traffic or this or that. I mean, there's always a million
Yeah.
answers. However, when I really thought about why is it that I am so angry or frustrated or triggered when somebody is late, and I figured out it's because it's disrespectful to my time.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
my core value is respect,
Yeah.
um, giving and show, and for me, one way I show respect is showing up and,
Hmm.
and time and being on time. And so that was a way for me to figure out that respecting, um, I find it disrespectful when you don't respect my time. Like you just think that
Yeah.
I should
But
just sit
what
there.
if, can I
Yeah,
ask you a
tell me
question?
more. Yeah.
Okay. So what if the person wasn't disrespecting your time, but they were in traffic or they were late?
Hmm.
It's still frustrating, right?
Yes, yes.
So like my question there is like,
Ooh.
is it respect, or is it like mindfulness, or Like, or is it intentionality? Like, just because I'm guessing, and I don't know, but I'm guessing that if someone were making you wait, but they called you and said, "Hey, Carolyn, I'm
Oh,
stuck in traffic,"
yes, yes,
like that is respectful.
that's
But
respectful
I
too.
almost wonder if like underneath it could be like, I really think, I really think like mindfulness or presence or something like that. Like, I think that's
Hmm.
the same lane, but because I think that could still be a trigger, even if the person is not intentionally disrespecting you. But I think that's where, in a super stressful place, you go to, well, they must be like, this feels disrespectful. So I'm not telling you what your values are,
No,
but I
no,
am
no,
saying
but
there
no,
might
it's
be
gonna make
something
me
under
start
that.
it. Yeah, I am gonna keep thinking on that. Oh, Megan has a good one. When
Okay.
you're ousted from your therapy space to
Mm-hmm.
accommodate somebody else, even if
Mm-hmm.
there's other availability out there. Why, but that is
Mm-hmm.
true.
Why is minding for space important?
Why
Yeah.
why am I not as important? Why? And when you flip that around to say, why are the children that you are kicking out of this room? Why are you kicking these children out? You're not kicking me out. You're kicking my students out. Why are they not as worthy?
Right.
That
Yeah,
feels icky.
it does. And so, I mean, my thought, and again, these are all suggestions coming from like a when you're resourced place, but like, I think sometimes when I was in a school, I probably wouldn't have asked why. But also, most likely, that principal or the administrator or the person who is like, "Hey, I need you to go here," they're probably just like not thinking, like if there's a space and they're moving someone from a space to put, they're moving you from a space to another space. And then I think people never choose the most simple option. And I swear school administrators are so stressed that they never choose the most simple option.
Yeah,
And so
their
some,
office.
I think at that point, right. And I think they just think they do the first thing that comes to their brain. But like, I mean, my thought is if you think that you can't ask, like that feels icky, right?
Hmm.
If you think that you can't ask. And so, I mean, number one, I would just encourage you to say, actually, if you're moving me to here and then them to here, like if we're instead of displacing 9 kids, what if you only displaced, or what if you displaced, or don't displace anybody, just put them over here. If you
Yeah.
can suggest a more simple option that allows you to stay where you are, I think that can be helpful. But if you have a principal who's very closed minded or doesn't want to hear your suggestion or isn't open, then I think that does feel icky and that does feel like you can't say what you want. And so I guess there I'm like, okay, well, underneath that, is it that nobody really value, like maybe you value curiosity or maybe you value like, but I mean, she didn't say anything about like needing to ask or wanting to ask, but and so maybe it's just like authenticity. Like I can't say the thing that is important to me because if I do, then this person's going to get angry and I'm going to feel silenced. So, but that's a super valid, like that is really angry. But if you're resourced and you're like, I actually value consistency and it would really help me if me and my students could stay in our space. And you don't have to say the first part where you're like, I value consistency. Although usually if you tell people what you value in a situation, they are much more open to understanding and you're communicating it clearly. But if you don't want to do that or you can't do that, then just saying, is there a reason why you're moving 9 kids instead of 3? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
So I can't believe we're kind of getting to the end, and I know it went really fast. But if you could just give a few minutes on what can we do right now
yeah,
to get us through this most stressful time of year, which is the beginning of the year. What
yeah.
can we, yeah.
I think that having like kind of predicting those situations. So if you know that they're going to be coming to you to ask you about your schedule in a couple days, or you know that you're about to get all of these requests for things, I think for me, having like canned, ready to go
Responses.
responses is so helpful. So having that response and having it literally just putting it in a note in your phone, and you don't have to like open it when you're talking to a person, but you can, and it's there, and just having it there, because when you're stressed, you don't have that access to your frontal lobe, but you can remember that you put it in your phone, and you can remember that you email it to yourself or something. Having, I think using AI a little bit if you're having a moment like that and you're like, I'm super angry about this at work. Like, help me figure out why I'm so angry, or help me figure out what core value is being violated for me. That can be a really helpful strategy. Like, ChatGPT is very helpful in that. And like, so there are so many ways to figure out your values. Thinking of the things that make you angry are one. And I can share some links with you to share in the show notes of just like other people's tools that are out there that like
Yes.
lists of values. And there's something called the values in action. Yeah, that something about character traits and values in action, but it's like a quiz. Some people love a quiz, some people don't love a quiz. If you're a person that looks at that, like wants to see a list of values, pull that up. I find usually though that like if you have this long list of values, it's kind of like when you have a million ice cream flavors to choose from, you're just
Yeah.
like this one and this one and this one and this one. And so use that as a start, and then kind of like look at them and figure out kind of what buckets they fall into. Like, are there any themes that can be helpful? And then use that when you are in the moment of like feeling frustrated or feeling triggered. If you can even get to one, and usually I think for so many people I talk to, like freedom is a value that they feel like they don't have in their day-to-day world. So like when their freedom is violated, like just that like control piece that you lose when you are working for somebody else, that can feel really triggering. And then also just like connection is one that consistently people go back to when I talk to them. And so even if you just like take those and use them and like see if they fit, if you're like, okay, how can I plan self-care in a way that aligns with my values? Or how can I, if I'm so overwhelmed or so stressed, like what about this is feeling like it's violating my values? And then how can I set a boundary that protects that value for me? And so even for you, Carolyn, if it's like
Yeah.
respect and you are telling yourself like, I'm going to do all these things, and then you get home and you're on your computer at night, well, how can you even respect yourself? Like, how can you provide that need to yourself too? And like, maybe what is the most respectful thing that you could do for yourself right now is closing your computer at after dinner and just saying like, I'm not going to do work. I'm going to schedule these emails and then get going.
Yeah. I think what's important is I like what you said, like we need to know what our core values are because when we can, like, it's not that we're just overwhelmed, because to me that's negative, like that we can't handle it, but it's not that we can't handle everything because we are
Mhm.
superstars. It is a core value that is being violated. And
Yeah.
that takes it away that there's something wrong with us.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with us.
No,
One of our core values is being violated, and we need to figure out how to put that boundary back. I think that is a really powerful
it is.
reframe
Reframe.
for
Yeah.
everybody to be like, we're not trying to tell you how to be a better you because there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
What you're saying is when you in this time of stress, we got to come figure out what is the stress because it's a core value that's being violated, not that you or something's wrong with you. And I think
Right. And you and I could be frustrated about the same situation at work, but
mm-hmm,
it could be we could have completely different value sets. And the reason why we're triggered is very different.
mm-hmm,
But but if you are trying to like mitigate the situation and fix what's going on based on my value, it's not going to feel as good. Like it's not going to feel
right.
it's not going to fill your cup up as much. And the same goes, vice versa. And so that's why a lot of times when like a school does like a blanket solution, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't always feel, it might feel good to some people, but it doesn't feel good to everybody. And so just recognizing that, knowing that just recognizing it can reduce the stress hormones
Stress
that you're
itself.
producing
I
is
know that
like so helpful.
yeah, I feel like my biggest takeaway, because I know we're kind of going over time. Sorry, y'all. Thanks for hanging in there with us. But is now I just forgot my thought. Reframing it. What did you just say now? Oh my
I
gosh.
think maybe you were going to say maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
but like just finding small ways to reduce that stress. Like
Yes.
we know that burnout, it's also just chronic stress. Like, and we already know that the world is stressed. Like you are in a school, public education is stressful. Like it is a fact. And if anyone is telling you that it's not, they're
They're
silly and
lying.
yeah.
They're fibbing.
Yeah. And so knowing it, and then I'm going to say one more thing. When you're
Yes.
standing firm in your in your boundaries, I think that's important. But I also think when you're setting a boundary that's aligned with your values, it's not always just like a yes or no. It's not always black and white. It can be more flexible because you can say to yourself, like, because the goal is to get to where your value is being met. And so then it stays about you and it doesn't become what that other person is doing. And so you do have to be firm in your boundaries. But I also think when you start to look at boundaries as a way to support your values, it feels a little bit different to me than because you're doing it because of what is meaningful and important to you.
Yeah.
It feels less stressful to me.
Right,
I was a
right.
boundary hater and now I'm
But
not.
but it gives purpose to those boundaries because it really is aligning to your values.
Yeah.
Well, we are gonna have to thank you
Yeah.
so much, Angelyn. I love this. I personally would love you to come back, and if we could, I would love to have one just on how to figure out our core values and
Yeah.
boundaries.
Like a little guided
Like a little guided,
exercise.
yeah, like I think if we could have a session on let's figure out, oh yeah, we've got it. People are chiming in, they want it too. So we're gonna
Yeah,
schedule that.
absolutely. This
All
can be like
right.
the prerequisite, like you can know why, and then we can talk about how
Yeah,
and
this
like
is the
really
why.
do
Now
it.
we're going to do the how next. So we do
Yep.
have to let everybody else go. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Angelyn, this was like, I can't believe how fast the time went. Like, it was
Yes, I
crazy.
know it was
You are
fast.
amazing. And everyone that's listening, and if you need CEUs, please jump on your speech therapy PD account and go through those modules. So you get credit for listening. And thanks again for everyone tuning in. And I really hope I see everybody on our next episode for sure. And you hear it here first. Angelyn's coming back. We're going to get her on the docket. And thank you
Absolutely.
everyone for today. Thank you. Thanks, Angelyn. Bye
Everyone have a great
guys.
school year.
Yes, bye everyone.
Bye.